Organizimin e sesionit të 13 të Parlamentit Kulturor Evropian. Të them që është bërë një punë 2 vjeçare prej Ministrit Krasniqit dhe Ministrisë Kulturës që sesionit të mbahet në Kosovë, sepse këto gjëra nuk janë të lehta. Duhet të tregohet një gatishmëri jo vetëm financiare, por edhe e vlerave që i përmendi kolega këtu, që një sesion i tillë të mbahet në Kosovë. Dhe 3, rëndësia e mbajtjes së këtij sesioni në Kosovë është vendi i parë në këtë pjesë të Evropës, jo vetëm në Ballkan, ku mbahet një sesion i tillë. Kështu që duhet të gjithë ta falenderojnë ministrinë për punën që e ka bërë të sjellim persona prej 43 shteteve. Gjithë ne që jetojmë këtu e dimë rëndësinë e vizitës së njerëzve nga shtete të ndryshme në Kosovë. Është mënyra e vetme që këta njerëz ta shohin realitetin në Kosovë. Nuk është e mjaftueshme vetëm takimet që mbajnë liderët tonë apo njerëzit e Kosovës në shtete të ndryshme, është komplet tjetër kur njerëzit vinë në Kosovë, takohen me njerëz dhe e shohin një realitet komplet ndryshe.
Unë duhet të falenderoj Parlamentin Kulturor Evropian dhe në mënyrë të veçantë sekretarin e përgjithshëm zotin Karl-Erik për bashkëpunimin shumë të frytshëm gjatë viteve të fundit.
So now the 13th session is in Pristina, and we are very happy to be in this part of the world. A very turbulent part of the world, we all know, with a turbulent history. And the more interesting and the more important is it that we can have a session here. And perhaps through culture, assist in the government's efforts to open a window and a door to the European cooperation, which is of course so important for Kosovo, and it's also important, I think, for the rest of Europe to have this part of the world fully joining the European cooperation. Culture is definitely the best way of doing it.
The immediate instinct when I arrived here was a fantastic sense of hope. And I think when a country has a sense of hope, a small country, any country has a sense of hope, then there will always be a positive future. So it seems a very appropriate place for us to be meeting to talk about culture.
Dear guests, member of European Culture Parliament and Senate, welcome to Kosovo session. I'm very happy that after 11 years, when I was nominated by the Austrian colleagues in 2003 in Austria, I would never think that this moment would come, that all parliament in one day will come to Kosovo.
I can tell you how happy I am that this is finally happening, because we have had discussions with Karl-Erik and with Bart Stenback for the last couple of years that we organize a session in Pristina, here in Kosovo, and seeing you all here and actually feeling that this is actually happening, it's emotional and it makes us all happy.
Thank you very much, Ersen. Thank you, Memli, for these welcoming words. I think it's wonderful to be in this beautiful gallery, and it's really a bit emotional to think of the fact that our member, Ersen, who 11 years ago joined the ECP, that he is now the head of this gallery and running this, and in that position, of course, a very central figure in Kosovo cultural diplomacy. So I look forward to wonderful days together with all of you, and I wish to repeat my very strong gratitude, deep gratitude to Memli Krasniqi, his collaborators, Burim, and to the government of Kosovo for having invited us and making this possible. I think it will be very exciting days, and we look forward to these days. Thank you, and enjoy.
Some of you are here for the first time. I hope that you will have the opportunity to see more than this hotel where we will hold the session. I hope that you will have the time to talk to Kosovan artists, to talk to our guests here, and learn more about Kosovan culture and artistic scene.
We have on this agenda a big discussion this morning on cultural diplomacy. Cultural diplomacy is about software. It is about perhaps even smart diplomacy. And I think it is smart to put culture in the front line in order to achieve the acceptance and the recognition of the rest of Europe, of the rest of the world. And we are very happy if, in a modest way, we can contribute to this development.
As you know, President Ahtisaari produced a comprehensive proposal for the independence of Kosovo. And at the conference in Rambouillet in France in 1999, Mr. Thaci led also the Kosovo delegation at that time. So here I see a link between our countries, and wish you all the best in achieving the final status as a country ratified or recognized by the majority of the world.
Sot për mua është një knasi e veçantë të jem këtu me ju, dhe këtë forum të rëndësishëm për dialogin kulturor me Evropë dhe me gjatë. Forum ky është jashtëzakonisht i rëndësishëm për të ardhmen evropianët e Kosovës dhe të rajonit. Është një knasi dhe nder për Prishtinën dhe për Kosovën, që këtë vit të jeni përshqit e sesionit e 13 të Parlamentit Kulturor Evropian, që një vend ideal, ngritur mbi vlerat e diversitetit kulturor, të dialogut dhe bashkëpunimit mes kulturave të ndryshme.
I would like to again welcome Karl-Erik, who has had a splendid idea some years ago to gather people around a discussion of culture at the time when maybe political successes of New Europe were at the forefront of everybody's attention.
And coming back to Kosovo, I just want to mention the history of Luxembourg. Luxembourg has been created it's very similar to what has happened to Kosovo. After the wars by Napoleon at the Vienna Congress, there was the decision to create Luxembourg as a buffer state between France and Germany. and to create it as a neutral state, and it was attached to the Kingdom of the Netherlands. It was a property of the King of the Netherlands.
Thanks very much. Please do feel free to ask questions and say please your name and what you are doing, because there are certainly somebody who doesn't know who you are. Please.
Cultural identities of other, let's say, older nations.
Bilingualism and in religions, two big cultural values, then we will avoid
Could we please find a place? Sit down. You're a bit late. Those of you who were in the previous session and thought me maybe a little bit depressed and depressing, I think that the cultural sector will be one of the great contributors to a solution in this day and age, and this session is going to be about that solution, where we have the arts sector and the cultural sector as such, as we know them now. The second level was the technical level, where you have arts and then you actually instrumentalize it in some other area. So you have community art, or you have aesthetics in business, you do it in another domain, which is very interesting and which comes close to what we're going to do today. What do artists know that everyone should know?
This session, in my mind, really follows on from that. It's about sharing ideas of creativity, what it is that artists know about creativity that we can share. And the day's discussions have been very much about inclusion and exclusion.
Notice the intensity that has risen since artists are talking here and about art, because we should be now until midnight actually. It's pity we cannot really now go very deep in this issue, because indeed it is art is now at the crossroads to really contribute to recomposing human society and developing the whole region out of the forces of art. Because I want you to listen that this is 32 times the same subject, something that is at the center and never changes, archetype. And around this archetype there is a timely evolution in time, which is becoming, and that is secret of identity on personal level and on national level. We always have the same problem, how to build identity. Let's go.
Establish a Centre for Cultural Policy Research at the University of Glasgow, and then went to England for 5 years where I lived in Coventry and set up an Institute for Creative Enterprise, bringing together the ideas of creative people and making money.
And the recognition of another, a different In order to break the vicious circle of corporate sponsors and politicians expecting to see concrete results prior to funding our project, even though we needed the funds to bring the project to life, we decided to put our money where our mouth is and invested our joint life savings and basically mortgaged our livelihoods for the rest of our lives in order to execute the project with our own funds.
I've been a very lucky lady recently because I've been awarded the Paul Hanlon Breakthrough Award, which will help me to develop a training program for artists beyond the planning, from artists of opera singing, music, and dance, to work with people with dementia in a theatre setting. And my passion, my plan is to open theatres to this audience for people with dementia. And in Edinburgh, I think I said a couple of things because there were many discussions about culture and identity. The people I work with have hardly any access to culture or art. They're losing their identity or they've lost it. So I feel very passionate of helping him to have some access to that.
One of my main, if I can resume my work, it's about, as a plastic artist, it's about mappings and about human rights. I've been very much interested into diffusing the human rights all over Europe and all over the world as an artist, as an involved as a citizen, I would say. These are some of the projects built in the different favelas of Rio de Janeiro.
I'm on the one hand a philosopher. I'm teaching and I'm working in an academic sphere, and I have studied in Belarus and Germany. And on the other hand, I'm cultural activist. Together with my colleagues, I led the last 8 years the intellectuals web journal Nova Europa, New Europe, as editor.
Like to be politically incorrect. I promised myself never to be politically correct again. And so I would like to suggest you something, a subject for the next edition maybe of this Parliament. That's one of the great fundaments of democracy is the fact that we could create some distance between the church and the state. Well, I now would like to suggest that we also create the same distance between politics and arts. Because I'm afraid that arts also become too much an instrument of politics, and we have to be very prudent with that.
Yeah, I used to be a director of Kosovo Film Center for a few years, and one of my main tasks was to open to the world, and we were quite isolated, and we still are, actually, unfortunately. And since nobody was asking into their pavilions, and we then decided to open our own pavilions in Cannes and Berlin. Actually, that helped us a lot, because we have started co-producing films with other countries, which we didn't do before.
What is important to say is that in the last couple of years I was involved in creating and enabling this cultural dialogue between artists from Kosovo and Serbia. And one of the first projects we did in this direction was 2 literature anthologies that we published, one in Belgrade, one in Pristina. In Belgrade, obviously, with the Albanian authors from Kosovo, in Pristina with the Serbian authors from Serbia.
I think the city is waiting for us now for a city tour.
pleasure to introduce to you Josep Luis Alay, who is from the Institute de Cultura de Barcelona, but he represents the city of Barcelona. As you know, everybody knows it's a beautiful city, it's a very popular city, it's a city of culture, and it is what I would call a pearl of the Mediterranean Sea.
Good evening, thank you very much. The Minister of Culture, Karl-Erik, and ECP members. I would like to thank you in the first place, the ECP, for choosing Barcelona as the host city for this 14th session. And thank you also to the local Kosovo organizing committee whose commitment to this event has been extraordinary. It's really, Minister, a great pleasure for me as a Catalan to be in Pristina.
And we, as people working in arts and culture, have a very important responsibility to reflect all of the society. The distribution of public money must embrace all audiences. Artistic projects should be many and broad. A biased culture output can only produce a narrow-minded and unbalanced society where women are too often the victims.
So, since I'm an architect by profession, I work in the University of Pristina in the Department of Urban Planning and Faculty of Architecture. But I come from a family which are most of them musicians, so the first thing I did in my life was singing in front of the people. But this was a dream that I couldn't fulfill because of the circumstances in Kosovo. So after the war, I kind of lived parallel lives, trying to fulfill my dream as a musician, and also finishing my studies and trying to develop my career in urban as a urban planner.
Let's open up this discussion.
I saw Emilio.
I'm Emilio Rons from Germany. Lisa, like you, I'm a singer that also talks so much. I will say that as much as I support women's rights, I'm a little bit disheartened to see that in context of a talk that is focused on gender equality and ending gender discrimination.
If I could also just comment on that, because I think we have to set some kind of frame for this discussion. We are talking about the role of culture in gender equality and inequality in wider terms.
Victims, women's victims, and I just want to make sure that we are actually careful not to perhaps perpetuate second victimization discourse and perhaps enable women to speak more and to be represented more as women rather than as victims.
Actually, let me tell you that it's very hard to speak from the woman's perspective. That's why I mentioned very generally some spots, which some quotes that refer to international context, but also to local context.
And what's very interesting from my experience in Scotland and some work that I did is that theatre in Scotland generally, not exclusively, but generally is new work. We don't actually have a canon of Scottish work going back to the 17th century like we have in England, although obviously we do see Shakespeare and other elements of that English canon.
Each one of you are an ambassador of this assembly, of this cultural parliament. And this means that you have the means, because all of you, each one of you, is somebody at home and has the possibility to go to media and to present what we decide here. That is your right. I would go further, say that is your duty to the issues, the important issues that we have been discussing. Because otherwise it's a little bit of a drop on a hot stone. What we deliver. If we deliver, of course, the European Commission and European Parliament and so on will receive this, but the way you can do this in all your 40 countries, there are 40 countries here, to your media and to your government, that is the most important thing. So as soon as this resolution will come to you via email and on Facebook, etc., etc., it is there for you to work on, and that is how it should function. Now it's time for the photos.